Pam, I guess we have begun our February 10th meeting, and we begin with a welcome from our president in Oslo, Pam Price. So Pam.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the Álamos History Association. Our beautiful and friendly municipio has inspired much creative expression over the years. High on the list of towns comes writing, all kinds of writing, memoir, ghost stories, history, fiction, vignettes. We're happy to have with us here today Emily Preece and Michelee Cabot to talk about and read from their books on life in Álamos. And Michelee will begin first. There you go, Michelee.
All right, well, I'm happy to see all of you here. It gives me a lot of moral support because boy, do I have stage fright. No, it's gone. That's called miedo escenario. I had to look it up so I would know what it was, stage fright in Spanish. But I feel good now. I feel I'm among friends, and I'm here to tell you about the little book and why I was inspired to write it. We had friends in New England who said, Michael, we found your place. You see, for years they'd heard me whine in New England about the bare trees, and the cold, and the ice dams and all that. And so they said, because they had retired to Tucson, they said, there's this place, you've got to see it, we'll take you there. It's this darling colonial town just south of the border, and it's called, and they said Álamos, but I didn't remember. And so we joined up with them, but we were blown away by storms. We couldn't come down, but it blew out. They had things to do, and we came down. And we came down and stayed at the Tesoros. Now the Tesoros is now a memory. Things change. Wherever you are, things are going to change. They just do. But this book I had to write about our magic time coming to Álamos and how it went for us. And I'm going to read to you a few things about our life here, because this was our time and you can have your time. And Emily's going to share hers. She was here earlier than we. First of all, I will tell you about the vendors. Here in Álamos, there are pleasant aspects reminiscent of the United States of the early 1900s. Astonishing and delightful. Vendors who come right to your doorstep. No fuller brush man or scissors grinder, but no matter, what comes to our door is good. This morning, the bell is rung and moved the mesquite. The wire comes from the gate over to our home where it's attached to a bell and it runs through the mesquite tree. And when they pull the string, the branches all rustle and bounce. It's very whimsical. This morning it's rung and moved the mesquite. The local enterprising fishmonger, Salvador, has rolled his wheeled ice chest to our back door, displaying his marvelously fresh fish that have been protection frozen for the trip from the nearby shore. We peer into his stash. He pulls out a bag of giant shrimp to swing before our eyes. He only comes to me when he has those biggies. Experience has taught him I won't buy any little ones. Muchachos who tend the household have called me to see. Señora, esta semana hay camarones como le gusta. Señora, this week he has shrimp you'll love. They are gorgeous. And I wish I could show you, maybe I could show you a picture of it. Look at that shrimp. Look at that. Ah. Anyway, mentally the girls are already boiling the shrimp to cool and peel. And as I too assess them, they lie pink and plump across my mind, all cooked and ready to pop into mouths, tails ready to grab and dip into the cocktail sauce that I treat with a pinch of wasabi. We know our routine. I give thanks. for Salvador and Álamos. And of course, there's more. Hal's poker crew is playing at Casa Cabot this afternoon. All is tranquil, the remote clicking of chips and the occasional burst of male laughter filtering up and out of the library. But uh-oh, it's afternoon and my siesta is violated. The dogs bark a fierce frenzy at the portal gate. There has been no warning bell. What's this about? Oh, it's the pickup truck loaded with asparagus bunches. He has ventured in through the drive-in gate left open for the players. It's a good thing he sells lovely asparagus, because I'd have otherwise missed his call as only to help answer the walk-in gate, source of the entry bell, and they've already gone home for the day. Mornings are their duty time. I buy my 2 bunches, only 50 pesos each, then consider the boys in at the game. Daring the den, I go in and tell of asparagus. Sure enough, there are takers. Cards are placed face down on the table and fingers dig into pockets for their pesos. They are no bargain at the price, but one doesn't pass up fresh asparagus. Everyone is happy. The weather-wrinkled, work-worn face of the asparagus guy is crinkled with smiles, and he departs for his next stop. Again, I give thanks. Another day brings the deaf mute, ringing at the pedestrian gate. He has full hearts, masks that he carved and painted himself. As usual, we buy one. They hang on a special wall, a handsome display. He is accompanied by a child and a woman, they say is a puta. Now, a puta makes her living well, you know. What do I say? What do I do? Hey, it's a tough life out there. You do what you have to. I smile at her in the boy. One morning, a favorite young father, a waiter at various watering holes in whichever positions open up, he's a determined provider, appears at our gate. He has brought round samples of a new skill he's found for himself. He's become a carver of stone, making grotesques. We buy a few and stick them in our bougainvillea. We admire his spirit, and they're beautiful in our shady garden. They remind us of the grotesques of Paris's Notre Dame. Anyway, the crows seem to be particularly drawn to them, and we are entertained. Peddlers pass and slowly disappear down our dirt road, coming eventually to the paved street at the corner. They cross themselves at the tree-shaded shrine to the Virgen de Guadalupe, Virgin of Guadalupe, mostly in thanks, I believe, for having made a sale. We're glad they have come to us with their merchandise and give our own thanks. Ole for Álamos vendors. Now, there's a center in the town which is called the Alameda, and it's surrounded by beautiful trees. At one point, they were fabulous cottonwoods, but they had a lifespan which had ended, and there were grotesque trunks, dead branches, and finally somebody cut them down. It's a particularly bustling center, encircled by stores, complete with a generously outfitted park with many benches and a handsome gazebo for banda music. Like every other plaza in Mexico, music, fiesta is their heritage. When, as things do, they died, these trees, I guess I already told you that. Nobody wanted to remove them. But anyway, they did, and it put nice fresh trees up, and they made it the proper kind of place to enter for the Pueblo Mágico, which we are here. But there was Bobby on the Alameda. Bobby was an institution. He was a shoeshine boy, a shoeshine man. He was an impressively rotund man on our Alameda, one who sang like an angel. Bolero, bootblack, Bobby the shoeshine man, could polish up your shoes and boots till they gleamed like mirrors. He proudly flaunted his handiwork by peering into the shine to catch his reflection. And he could serenade at your parties. You could punching out the standards and favorites of old Mexico. He was a melodious, enthusiastic baritone, powerful and pure. When we had a fundraiser casino night at Casa Cabot, Bobby came to robustly belt out those classics to the spending crowd. It was lively, it was joyful, with people applauding and hollering requests. We used to haul our shoes downtown for regular polishings, but then we had to go back up north for a while. Bobby missed our custom. So the enterprising bolero started appearing at our house to exercise his trade. If we wouldn't come to him, never mind, he would come to us. The muchachas would see him coming and scamper to the closets for anything leather to polish. It became a welcome routine. The advent of sneakers, tennis, they call them here, as footwear of choice, hit his business hard. We felt for him. Bobby's shoe shine stand was parked up on the sidewalk edge of the busy raised plaza. The plaza itself is up a few steps, elevated from circulating traffic. For his customers, he captured a spot shaded by a still extant, handsome cottonwood. But we began to see fewer and fewer clientele in that chair, those darn sneakers, now festooned too many feet. I see, yes, comfort will win over style. Well, except for the dignified Mexican male tradition of business shoes and nice trousers. Those men always wear leather downtown and to the office, along with the customary white sombrero. It's a magical. As long as that custom endures, there will always be a place for someone like Bobby. I can't see it changing. The Alameda is different now. Bobby is gone, called home to Paraíso, but his chair remains decorated with a wreath. No one would dare remove it. And we passed by it yesterday. It's still there. His joking, kibitzing friends pass it by, looking at it as if he might still be there, hoping to hear that glorious baritone, but of course it is silent. We had planned another party, a fiesta with Bobby. We waited too long. Mother's Day, Álamos. In the nighttime, dark and warm, through the flickering shadows cast by the odd street lamp, you hear it. Music wafting on the gentle movement of air, a special music. I am full of poignant remembering, gentle and tender. Álamos is full of music and fiestas. There's always a celebration about. Tired and bored? Wait a moment. Soon you'll be swept up in a happy swirl of guitar and trumpet gaiety. It's the Mexican way. This time and this music was different. It was the eve of Mother's Day. Mexicans worship their mothers. The mother is the touchstone of the family, the touchstone of their civilization. The maternal, the matriarchal society of Mexico joyfully exists, mothers surrounded by their men and children, loved and idolized, and they celebrate her appropriately. After all, the Virgen de Guadalupe appeared to the people of their countryside, herself an icon of motherhood and held close to the millions, the hearts of millions. A decade or two ago, a new tradition was born. It started with a few strolling guitarists, ambling, strumming, singing the traditional Las Mañanitas throughout the neighborhoods, serenading all the mamas of the town. All through the night, women would hear the thrums of drums and dash to their doors and windows, waiting for the melodic waves to wrap them in what is clearly happiness and love. And so that last time, way past bedtime, I heard the musicians too. Oh, These days, they move about on a flatbed so as to reach all the barrios. The town has grown in the last few years, with families moving here from the mountains for jobs and a better life. These mamacitas get serenaded too. The night was clear. The stars seemed to shine with a special effort. It was Mother's Day Eve. The music exalted and embraced me, and I teared up with happiness. Dawn of the day came. The rolling musicians were still at it, passing through the neighborhoods again with their brand of alegría. The day would be filled with flowers and feasting, dancing too. First, fun for the young, as well as for the not so young. That's me. And my last piece, horses, horses, and more horses. Mexico is a proud country of proud riders, from rustic caballeros of the campo to polished up macho riders of the town. Some train their horses to strut and dance and show off in fiestas. A wild and wonderful scene of tossing hats, olays, and flying hoofs, and such precision riding, almost electrical in its excitement. Everyone rides. Teens ride, sometimes tandems, and little kids get to participate too. They hop on and back and ride with papas. It is Mexico. Holidays all require parades. There are so many holidays. Besides the usual marching formations, this happens. Muchachos, the boys, ride in tandem with amigas, arms wrapped around waists, surreptitiously cuddling up to young bosoms. It's a rite of passage gleefully enjoyed by the girl, hoisted up by the grinning boyfriend, applauded by their pals. She preens and tosses her hair back over her shoulder and goes back over his shoulder. She presumes he smooths her hair, then squeezes her. In the United States, girls ride behind the boys. I think the Mexicans have it better. Early on in settling in our new town, I got to join up with a group of expat women who rode a couple of times a week. They were snowbirds from Montana and Alaska. Used to a lot of riding. I was tickled to be included. I hadn't ridden much in years, not since I gave up horses for airplanes. Back then, a new passion took me over. Why ride when I could fly? The mystical, magical me playing sky. I think it was in my genes. My father had been a test pilot. Excuse me. Ooh, sorry. How could I get around genetics? But now I again climbed up on a horse, designated Palomino. Appropriate, a Dobbin. Appropriate for my age and rusty abilities. I quietly prayed I hadn't forgotten how. Touching my spurs lightly to the old plug side, I wandered along with my new friends. They had in time developed a routine. It involved sloping around the town, along arroyos, hopping along paths, but not including the Sierras. Up to, but not included. Some later, I understand, they hike up there now. We trotted down alleyways and even poked through backyards. We pulled gates open and pushed down on sagging fences to step over them. Once by mistake, needing to offload my morning coffee, I slid off my horse right down into a brush-hidden steep-sided arroyo, blinking up at 4 sets of eyes, peering worriedly down at me. I collapsed in laughter. I wasn't hurt. I found a growth and carried on. Either people didn't see our little group, or they didn't, but didn't mind, or they did, but didn't mind. Ringleader Rosemary, she's gone on for a long time, led our little group. She was a longtime resident. We trusted her. We waved off the odd, curious dog as we quietly transgressed Álamos dogs are unexcited about horses. But they took off in a frenzy after a red-tailed fox we came upon daintily sniffing and poking into some lovely smelly trash. A dog is a dog, fox or not. A national holiday came along as they do. Actually, it was the Dia de Independencia, a whooping celebration for the whole country. Álamos did his part. The municipio, which is the town government, always threw a good fiesta. It started with the befores. What's somebody coming in? Nope. The grito the night before. The grito that was traditional happening. I think it was Montana one. Where did the grito? ¿Dónde fue el grito primero? ¿Tú recuerdas, Humberto? El grito de independencia del padre.
En Dolores Hidalgo.
En Dolores Hidalgo, okay. And it's a tradition. Anyway, it starts with that, and the crowds gathered to hear an honored citizen present the historic call. Then came the next day's parade, finally ending with glorious fireworks from the Palacio. The part here that interested me was the parade. I was asked to ride with friends in the town parade, and so I did. I will never forget the oles and hola senora call from the townsfolk. The mob was lining the route to cheer us all on. My horse didn't dance, but I was hallooed anyway. I hollered and waved back. It was a moment for all time. Thank you. Emily Preece come now, and she's going to give you her insights throughout the years of Álamos and its changes.
Thank you for coming out and showing up and tuning in and whatever. Michelee, that was fabulous. Thank you. I think we have, I enjoyed your reading and writing style, and I think we're kind of similar, and that's why I enjoyed it so much. So that was really precious. I love it.
One comment, Michelee, when you said, oh, so
well, Bill and I first came to Álamos in 1983, which was a long time ago, and kept coming back, and we're actually married here in 1986. Bought a home in February of 1987, fixed it up a little bit, and we've been here ever since. Not full time, but when we were able to retire, we were able to come down here about half of the year. So throughout that time, I started writing in journals, these blank books. And as you can see on this one, it's numbered number 10. I have 9 books plus this one full of little happenings, things that I thought were peculiar, interesting, whatever, things that happened to us. And so one day I thought, well, you know, it'd be kind of fun to put together a little book. So I did. I put together a skinny little book that just has a fictitious week's worth of activities organized from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so if you were to read the book, you would be spending a fictitious week with me in Álamos. And it was written because when the year 2000 came around, I thought it was a momentous occasion enough to get down on paper what Álamos was like at the turn of this last century. So it's kind of a Van Gogh work. It's not worth anything now. Nobody will buy it or be interested in it, perhaps, but years from now, if it stays preserved, this is going to be an important piece of history because it's going to be a snapshot of the way Álamos was at the turn of the last century. And I went so far as to read through it one last time before I published, and things had already changed. I published this in 2009, and things had already changed. So I wrote and stuck in an epilogue at the end of the book that updated what had changed since I had first penned the book. And so what I'd like to read for you is just the epilogue. And then I read through the epilogue, getting ready to come here today, and things had changed again. So I wrote another, what I call a postscript. So I'll read that to you. I won't, and then if you're interested in what the book has to say, you'll have to buy the book. But anyway, okay, so here's the epilogue to the original book. On the evening of October 11th, 2008, Hurricane Norbert blew in from the Gulf of California over the beach town of Huarabampito and inland towards Álamos. The area was saturated from prolific summer rains, and the terrain simply could not hold any additional moisture. The resulting precipitation caused a series of huge mudslides that originated in the higher elevations of Mount Álamos and headed directly for the town, tearing up and carrying along everything in its path. A 7-foot wall of ravaging sludge, mud, muck, cars, trees, boulders, homes, even human beings, surged through the town's lower lying arroyos and the municipal market area. In 20 terrifying minutes, under cover of night, the entire landscape of the town was changed. Everything in the way had been picked up and deposited further downstream. Over 50 homes were totally destroyed, and 200 others were severely damaged with contents lost. All businesses in the Alameda and Mercado were washed out, with the contents damaged beyond recovery. Roads and bridges were swept away, severing one side of town from the other and from the outside world. Electricity and telephone landline service was cut off, and water and sewer lines were uprooted. With the arrival of the first rays of light on the morning of the 12th of October, a totally different landscape greeted the people of Álamos. Everyone was grateful just to be alive, and incredible stories of luck, life, and survival were being told everywhere. News of the disaster quickly spread. Cleanup and rebuilding began immediately. Sonoran television reports and personal videos started circulating via the news and internet for the world to see. Even before the initial period of shock, sadness, and mourning had passed, help arrived. Mexican government agencies moved in heavy equipment and medical aid, and within hours, power was restored. With the cutting of international red tape, a monumental airlift initiated by the Baja Bush Pilots Organization brought over 40 aircraft directly to Álamos from the US with food, water, clothing, and tools. Shelters were established around town, and every hotel or restaurant with functioning kitchen facilities kept working around the clock to provide meals. Thousands of truckloads of debris and dirt were cleared out of the way and deposited south of town, so homes, shops, and streets could be cleaned and disinfected. As quickly as only 13 days after the inundation, the first of the market area businesses reopened. The North Americans who were here worked to exhaustion, side by side with the native Alamensans in a display of true solidarity in the face of such adversity. Many North American friends of Álamos who were not here donated monetarily towards the recovery. Although there are permanent visual, economic, and emotional scars that never will completely heal, all who have contributed and worked so hard are pleased and proud of the restored, revived Álamos emerging from the mud and dirt. The casual visitor or tourist may think the town has recovered, and in the superficial cosmetic sense, The more visible areas look that way. But the deep scars of shock, fear, and monumental loss are branded on the hearts of all who witnessed this event. And those scars remain to temper the future. The work continues and will continue for a long time to come. Typical of the Mexican spirit, though, is the thread of optimism that is woven into their background. So there are changes. Barrio Guayaparines, where Shoeshine Bobby lives, was one of the residential areas hardest hit by Hurricane Norbert because of its low proximity to the Arroyo de Aduana. Bobby recalls vividly that terrible night when he had to cling to an overhanging timber. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, Emily. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, for the time being, Sunday shoppers must look for their favorite tianguis vendors either on the raised Alameda near the city market shopping area or out on the soccer field at the entry to town. The area around the arroyo is undergoing a major facelift with heavy equipment and earth movers repositioning channels for future water runoff and trenching for an improved sewer and water treatment system. Don Martin Leva, the elderly gentleman I met in front of his house on Calle Galeana, has returned to his home after spending a trial period in the nursing home facility in Álamos. The religious order of sisters who care for the residents frowned on the slightest consumption of alcohol on the property. So Martin decided to return home. He is still being looked in on by helpful neighbors. Descendants of native Alamensans and Mexican and American tourists still visit Álamos. The airstrip north of town has been lengthened, securely fenced, well guarded, and most recently has been designated to become an international airport, offering all associated services to non-commercial aircraft arriving from the United States, including customs, immigration, and flight service operations. Albina is still making and selling tamales door to door with a slight inflationary price increase of 1 peso to 6 pesos each. Her daughter has completed her education, is fluent in written and spoken English, and is an accomplished artist working in multiple mediums. Lupe, our attentive and faithful housekeeper, still works with us on a daily basis. She is a spry 60-something grandmother of 6 who brings a smile to work every day and continues to share all of her family and neighborhood happenings with me as she sweeps the patio. She is approaching retirement age, but assures me she would rather die with a broom in her hand rather than give up work and sit around with less to do. We love her dearly. There will be another census here next year, 2010. What will the questions be the same? Or will other questions be critical to determining the economic viability of this and other communities 10 years after the last accounting? Dogs still wander the streets. A determined effort has been made by some private enterprises to spay or neuter and find homes for stray and abandoned animals, and this appears to be helping. Last week, our house guest and I took an early morning walk up to the Mirador. About halfway along our route, a sweet caramel-colored female pup with distinctive white markings on her paws, neck, and the very tip of her tail met up with us and accompanied us all the way to the Mirador lookout and back down to Calle Comercio. She walked with a slight limp as if compensating for an injury received some time ago that may not have completely healed. I would love to think that my canine friend from the soccer field had found me once again. Celebrations of life and death are still the nuclear binding force that drives the community. Baptisms, quinces, weddings, and funerals continue to be the traditional established occasions that allow young and old to breathe the same air of their culture. We still relish the opportunity to sit out on our porch in the evenings and greet passersby with a friendly adios. Spiders still drop in for a visit at our casa from time to time. We continue to give each other space as silent acknowledgement of each other's contribution as caretakers of these thick adobe walls we temporarily call our home. Pablo Macias sold a piece of his ranch property to purchase a new young horse, El Dorado, the shiny one, and they are learning to move together as one element to the distinctive beat of Mexican music. The spirit of Álamos is embedded deep in our hearts and our minds and pulls at us each time we get removed from its invisible magnetic embrace. It is my hope that you have come to understand why this small Sonoran town endears itself to all who visit. May your travels bring you here someday to walk over these cobblestones, or perhaps bring you back again to experience that feeling that is Álamos. Now that's what I wrote 10 years ago. Here's the 10-year update. My post script. So here we have arrived to a point in time almost 15 years after I first penned my little book over these cobblestones. How has Álamos fared, you ask? The routine of daily life activities remains largely unchanged. There are more cars and traffic and topes in every neighborhood. Everyone now totes some type of cellular device around with them. And it is still a bit curious to see a caballero on horseback clopping down Calle Obregón while conversing on his Samsung. Okay, and there are tourists, many more tourists. They are not foreign visitors who want to experience a sleepy little Mexican town, but Mexican nationals looking for a weekend respite from larger cities. The filming of a few telenovela episodes here and other marketing efforts have resulted in an enormous increase in tourist traffic. The little red train that was first available for tours on the plaza over 10 years ago has been joined by horseless electric Berlina carriages, double-decker open-air buses, and an assortment of other forms of transportation, which give visitors an overview of our village. It is crazy on weekends, but when Sunday night activities wind down, we're happy to get our quiet little pueblo back for the work week. Álamos was not spared from the recent worldwide COVID virus event. Testing is available, but few can afford it. Therefore, many cases go unreported, and people with other underlying medical issues fall victim to the compromising effects that being infected with the virus brings. There was a period of time in 2021 where funerals were conducted as drive-by events. In lieu of a mass for the departed, the procession would merely drive by the front of the church for a blessing from the priest before proceeding out to the cemetery for burial. It is now hoped that the worst days of this virulent illness are behind us all and a sense of normalcy can return. We had to say goodbye to Shoeshine Bobby this past year. He suffered a massive infarct while going about his daily routine in the center of town. Gone are his cheerful conversations, his beautiful singing voice, and professional treatment and care to our shoes and boots. Post-mortem, Bobby was given yet another new shoeshine chair, and it has been secured to the banister where Bobby conducted his business. It was lovingly constructed by a local carpenter. Anonymously, fresh flowers appear on a regular basis. I always stop by to say hi to Bobby up in heaven whenever I pass by. Old Don Martin also passed on to his heavenly abode. The sparse property where he once lived on Calle Galeana has been demolished. There is nothing that remains to remind one of this gentleman's presence here on this earth. So we will remember him here for the person that he was. The landmark Casa de los Tesoros Hotel closed its doors. The 70s, 80s, and 90s place to gather for drinks and news of the day, a deer dance exhibition perhaps, and dinner is now another victim to the march of time. Many of us have very special memories of the Tesoros that we will treasure forever. Albina is still making her very yummy beef tamales, and sells them to anyone that will make the visit to her humble abode in the barranca. The price is now $12 pesos each, which is still a real bargain for how plump and flavorful they are. This cottage industry gives her the reason to get up and about every day while putting her aches and pains aside for a few hours. Our dear sweet Lupe has retired from her day-to-day responsibilities at our house and now spends her days improving the new home she was able to build for her family, as well as to care for her husband. She still dotes on us with regular visits to catch up on local gossip and to bring us a tasty selection created in her kitchen. Empanadas, buñuelos, and albóndigas are some of her signature dishes. All dogs, but most specifically the street dogs of Álamos, have benefited greatly from 2 startup organizations that have undertaken the overwhelming job of spaying, neutering, vaccinating, and treating any dog in need in and around the Pueblo. Campaigns to educate pet owners and the general public are also paying dividends. Both APPA and the Álamos Dog Foundation have made such a difference over the past few years. Many donors on both sides of the border make these necessary works possible, and the results are encouraging. We hope these efforts can continue. The Tianguis still assembles on Sundays in its old location across the arroyo from the market and Alameda. The outdoor shopping area was paved by the city to cut down on dust and for overall enhancement. Most of the same vendors participate on a weekly basis, and it's always enjoyable to see what fresh and unusual things one can find while catching up with friends we meet along the way. There remains a significant, but not overwhelming, gringo expat presence here in Álamos. Most important is the spirit with which we all bring to share with the local residents, finding ways to interact respectfully with those who have so kindly opened their arms and their pueblo to us. We hope that relationship stands firm and stays strong with whatever we face together in the future. I was hoping I could get through this. Very few cobblestone streets still remain in Álamos. The most prominent one is along a short stretch of Calle Comercio, about a block off the main plaza, going south in the direction towards the cemetery. Our home fronts along this rustic, historic piece of pavement. I am ever so grateful to be able to walk over these cobblestones on a daily basis. Doing so is an enduring reminder of all the memories I have accumulated over the past 36 years. Thank you. How are we doing on time, Earl?
Oh, we're doing great. First of all, I want to thank both of you for the moving reading of your work and the emotion that you have for our Pueblo Mágico. This has been just wonderful. It's kind of awkward. Some people will have questions there. Some will have them online. So we'll try to sort it out. But first of all, if both of you could get together up there front, well, then we could see you and direct our questions to both of you if that's possible to do it.
Hey, Carol,
Yeah.
can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, and
Okay.
you know,
I wanted to mention, I have an author's proof copy of my book that I want to donate to the History Association, and I put in it a copy of my postscript, and I wrote,
great.
I just wrote a little note in it, and if you'd like it for the archives, you're welcome to have it.
We
Terrific.
certainly will like it for the archives. And if we'll work later on how you can get it into our library. But thank you so much for that, Emily. And okay, we've got you both together. And again, yes, Susan, a question from Susan.
Well, it's not a question. It's just an admiring opinion because it really brought back the spirit and the feeling of being in the town. And I really appreciate that. I think that both authors caught what makes Álamos so charming and important to us. And so, so much of a magnet to try to get us back there all the time.
Oh,
Thank you.
great. That's wonderful. Yeah. Yes, Pam.
Okay, I have a question for Michelee. Emily told us about her writing process. Michelee, can you tell us how you went about writing your book? How did you organize the chapters? Did you begin chronologically? What was your game plan for your book?
Well, it just morphed from all my, actually, I had written blogs. I had written things for myself. I had written for my Aero Club in New England, and I collected everything and I edited it and I rewrote a lot, and I just popped it into different chapters. And
Okay.
it was a little bit tough figuring out what to put where, whether I should put the Mother's Day towards the end, or whether I should put the vendors towards the beginning, and the book actually covers the hurricane also. Many of the things that Emily did, we both covered much of the same things, but from our own angles, from our own point of view. And mine was strictly from housing my experience from it. And I didn't take notes as I went along because she's a great journalist. I didn't do that. But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I want to make a comment too to both of you. Yeah, to anyone. This is Errol talking now. Can you hear me?
You walked over somebody.
Okay. Well, anyway, this is Errol, and I want to say that in listening to both of you, I have such memories, even though my experience is shorter than both of you. Like, for instance, the Alameda, when we talk about things that have changed, I remember when the Alameda had the volleyball court and the young people would be playing in the evening, and Carolyn and I would be down at the plaza. We would get an ice cream cone at the Michoacana and sit on the bench and watch the volleyball game or basketball game. And we really felt a part of the community. But of course, after Norbert, that all changed. And just as you pointed out, Emily, things continue to change, but we're left with those wonderful memories anyway from the past.
Errol, that wasn't Norbert that changed that. That was the mindset of a new mayor, Presidente. That they didn't want that going on the plaza. They were going to take that away and put. No, it wasn't. It wasn't Norbert.
Okay. Well, it's a shame. However it happened, it's a shame. Do we have more comments and questions for our author?
Yes, sir. Let's hear one question here. Somebody will talk here, Errol.
Yes.
I do have a comment. Can I say a comment, Errol?
Yes. Oh, Trini, good to see you. Please give a comment.
I really congratulate Emily and Michelee. When I grow up, I want to be like them. They both look so good. Congratulations. And thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Treaty. And it's good to see you up and around. And congratulations on your professional advancement and everything else. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, are there other comments for
Yes,
Michael?
thank you. Thank you. My turn.
Pamela.
Michelee, your book is wonderful. I loved it.
Thank you.
But you never say when you first came down here. What year was that?
2003.
That was your first time here.
Yes,
So when you built your house
we started that same year.
that same year,
Yeah.
and then
Bought
when
property.
or you bought your property, when did you actually, because there are no, I got the drift, but I really wanted the timeline.
Oh, okay. Well,
A
let's
little
see.
bit.
You know, the thing is, it's kind of dim in my mind.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm old. I don't remember very well. But Hal, he's here. When did we start? When did we move in? 2004? Have you gone to sleep, darling? But we were.
2003.
But in the meantime, we were staying in first of all, we were staying at the Sojourns. And then we moved in for the duration until into the Casa Roberto, Roberto Wurr's place down, it was owned by Edith Pratt.
Spent my honeymoon there.
There you did, yes.
so you came in 86?
83.
83, okay.
But we were married here in 86.
Okay, so, and you bought your house. Are you in the same house?
Yes, same house.
So same house, same house. Awesome.
And we built, because we decided that we'd rather make our own mistakes than try to renovate somebody else's.
Yeah.
And it's worked out just fine,
Well, everyone does things a little differently, and I think and everyone here is a little different.
Oh, no
And I
kidding.
think that's why I like Alamos,
Sure.
is no one's cut out of the same mold.
And you know what
And
I
that's
don't
why
like? Is y'all have breakfast too early on Sundays.
it's a little chilly now.
Okay, I want to make a comment. I see Craig in the background there. And when you talk about we're all different from Álamos, I quote Craig all the time, who said, nobody normal lives here. And we're all just a little spatial, I think. I want to say, Emily, too, one time many years ago, you read from your diary when Bev was running the meetings, and you read from your diary. And there were so many wonderful things that you had. I just enjoyed. I still remember you writing about this great day when a car that had been parked in front of your house for 2 years was finally moved. And those of us that live here in Álamos can identify so much with that. And I also want to say for both of you, the inspiration I've received from you, I write a journal every day that I'm in Álamos. I don't know if I'll ever do anything with it other than it's family history for our family, but I hope that I can create something as beautiful as both of you have done. Okay, our time is about up. Is there any last comment from this meeting? And I want to thank everyone. Next week on February 17th, we will have a presentation that I will give on our presidents of Álamos, and I'll center on the first presidents that we have records from going back to the 1850s. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I thank both of you so much. Thank all of you for going and all of you online. So we're going to officially sign off. So thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay. Bye for now. Till next week.